Welcome back to you, 9:12 here on your Wednesday morning. And this morning we wanted to check in with Representative Steve Russell, get his take on a number of issues that we are seeing in the headlines. We appreciate you being here. You're always good about coming in and sharing your thoughts and perspective. Let's first talk about the latest that you're hearing about the tariffs, the trade war. How is it affecting Oklahomans?
Well, we've had a lot of concerns about it, as you know. We were very encouraged that President Trump did seem to work out some issues with the EU. Was able to get some concessions. That's a positive thing. We're watching agriculture very closely. A lot of concerns were conveyed to the president about the impacts it would have in rural America. I think the latest, though, with the European Union is favorable. He did announce to increase a significant amount, I believe it was $25 billion worth of tariffs on China. We're not seeing the response from China as we would hope. While I'm certainly a free trader and I'm not a big fan of trade wars, when it comes to nations that are clearly not in alliances with us, or we don't have trade deals with, or many countries that just wish to do us harm, I think everything needs to be reevaluated when it comes to our trade policies. Where I get concerned is obviously with nations of Europe or with our staunch allies, Canada, things like that. We don't need to be picking fights there. We can do good bilateral trade agreements, and then that helps all countries. But competitors, we're going to continue to see that develop.
How do you think the meeting went with North Korea?
I think in retrospect, it was good to open the dialogue. What we've seen is Secretary Pompeo has had a couple of meetings as well. The fact that we're talking is better than not. What we have also seen from the president's engagement is we've not seen a rocket fired since last fall.
But they still have not, or they may not be completely denuclearizing. What do you think about that they're maybe playing some games?
Well, we've been very clear in our policies. In fact, we had a very good meeting with the National Security Advisor, Ambassador Bolton, just a week or so ago, week and a half ago. And the policy is still the same. There will not be any concessions from the United States, any lifting of sanctions until we see key changes, key dismantlings, key commitments, followed by key activity. Without the actions, there's not going to be the goodwill. With the actions, the doors are going to be open.
So you're watching it closely.
And one point on that, we have seen, I believe it was 4 dozen or so remains of soldiers from the Korean War back in the early 1950s. These remains have been repatriated to the United States. That's a good thing. That helps families get some closure. So that's a positive sign.
What about the meeting with President Trump and Vladimir Putin and what the president said in the press conference after that meeting?
When we all had a lot of concerns about whether or not what was discussed would be making some type of commitments to Russia. The president, constitutionally, any president is given broad latitude on foreign affairs. However, when it comes to our alliances, when it comes to trade, that's the purview of Congress. So I think when we look at this, our questions are what was discussed. However, we've had from multiple cabinet officials reassurances that there was nothing given away, there was nothing promised in that private meeting that would be counter to anything that we would have had concern about. So we will take them at their word and go from there.
Does it concern you that just yesterday Facebook came back out again and said it appears that there is continued interest in meddling in our elections? They haven't directly said this is Russia again, but now they found more fake websites, more people trying to incite groups to get together. And does that concern you?
It's a big concern, and it's a concern that we've been voicing for many years, even prior to the current president being elected. Russia continues to be very advanced in its cyber and propaganda warfare. This is nothing new in terms of propaganda. We've seen that during the Cold War. But now that we seem to have restarted the Cold War due to Russia's own choosing. These attacks are throughout society. They want to foment division. And you know, what can we do in Oklahoma to counter some of that? If you see nastiness on our anti-social media, don't forward it. Don't join in. A lot of times these made-up groups or people that come out with these stories, and sure, people we know may forward them and they may put a link to them. We don't need to continue to isolate from one another. This is only going to play into the hands of those that wish to do us harm. It is clear that Russia wants to diminish the NATO alliance. They want to weaken economic trade between Europe and the United States and our allies. They want to turn and flip former Soviet republics that are now independent countries to bring them back into their sphere. I just met with key Eastern European ambassadors last week. All have very big concerns on these issues. So we don't need to play into that with our own propensities of, you know, fomenting hatred and sniping at one another on social media. Just
know your source.
Let it go. Just let it go.
Right.
Put the country before all of that. And even though we have concerns about the state of affairs or how we might conduct business, we don't need to be attacking each other as Americans. That gives a lot of us a lot of concern right now.
All right.